Good afternoon, New Zealand, and good morning, Asia and Australia. Great to have you with us. So this month, we're all about looking at insight analytics, which is a little bit of a overflow from last month where we just really ran out of time. And to combine with that, we wanted to look at the program canvas and give you a little bit of an understanding as to how that really can be a tremendous tool to help you. So welcome, and let's get started. So just some housekeeping. You're probably familiar if you attend regularly. We use Zoom. Replays are always available via our blog. Please feel free to ask questions throughout. And also any questions submitted through Q&A are visible to everybody on the webinar. So you can actually upvote those. If you wanted to ask a question without everybody knowing what you're asking, that's fine too. And you can use the chat function in order to do that. My name is Derek Bell. I'm your host today, and I'm joined by Adrian Jones, our CEO and co-founder. So he will be driving the Q&A for me and chat, just in case I miss anything. So keep him busy with your questions. What are we covering for the next 45 minutes? So first thing was to look at questions submitted, which actually there weren't any. I did a last minute check about 15-20 minutes ago, and there were no submitted questions, just one from the US. So I'll answer that tomorrow night. But let's get the basics down in relation to Insight, looking at how you can extract a report from Insight and also create your own report, which is called a custom report within Eloqua. And then also we're going to spend some time looking at the program canvas. And that really is to give you an idea of what's possible, more so than kind of how to get to use it in detail, because really it's much like the campaign canvas. It's not as though it's a whole different platform. It really is much like the campaign canvas, but it just has a slightly different range of functions. So we'll explain those in a bit more detail. And of course, Q&A. So Q&A, as I said, please feel free to ask questions as we move through the session. Don't feel like you need to wait till the end of the webinar. But let's get the basics down. Let's first understand what is Insight, how do I access it, and how can it help me? So we're kind of right on the cusp at the moment, actually. So the current application that is Insight is referred to as OBI by the people within Oracle. Everybody else within the Eloqua world just calls it Insight, but it's actually a product called Oracle Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition. And that's why you'll notice when you access Insight, it says logging in, essentially, when you go through. So you're actually leaving Eloqua proper and moving over to a different platform, which is the Oracle Enterprise or Intelligent Business Intelligence Enterprise Edition. But that's all history shortly, because it's being upgraded to a new application called Oracle Analytics Server. I have a feeling I may have referred to it previously as the Oracle Application Server, which was incorrect. So it's the Oracle Analytics Server, which kind of makes more sense anyway, really. So we should have access. Look, originally, I think we were going to have access by now. That hasn't happened. It obviously has slipped. The latest update is not to give us a date, but to let us know it's still imminent. So more on that as we get to it. But from your point of view, the way you access it is not going to change. All right, so there are two types of users within Insight, and one is referred to as the reporter, and the other is referred to as the analyzer. Very similar in what they can do. Analyzer just has more access to more things. The key difference really being for a reporter that it's largely a read-only license. Strictly speaking, Oracle referred to as a read-only license. But it's pretty robust in what you can do. So the reporter is able to go in and access over 200 plus pre-built out-of-the-box reports. They can also access reports that the analyzer user may have built. We refer to those as custom reports. So it's the 200 plus out-of-the-box reports, plus any reports that may have been built, any custom reports that may have been built by the analyzer user as well. So that's really the difference with an analyzer user. So the analyzer user is somebody who is able to actually build both reports within in Insight and also dashboards within Insight. So we'll have a closer look at both of those. Okay, so what are the reports that you're able to extract? So this is kind of the high-level summary. And you'll notice that it essentially looks the same as your Eloqua interface. So when you're in Eloqua, you build campaigns, you look at contacts, emails, etc. So we're able to go into each of those. And let me just give you an idea. If you let's say you've got a campaign running, and let's say it's a lead nurture campaign, kind of following on from last month, right? And that campaign may consist of up to 20 emails. When you go in to look at the report from a campaign point of view, what you'll see is a single row which will give you a roll up of the performance of all of those different emails. So all of those 20 emails, while they'll all have different unique open rates and click-through rates, etc., they'll all be rolled up into a single line item and an average. Now, if you wanted to look at each of those 20 emails side by side and understand their individual performance, then you would actually go through the report catalog and you would click on email. And what you would do then is select all of the emails that relate to your particular campaign. See the difference? So campaigns is helpful at a high level view, maybe looking back at the last quarter, getting an idea of which campaigns jumped out and which of those performed the best. And then you might go from there and drill down to then look at all of the relevant emails. Okay. So that same logic applies really to most things. So with landing pages and website pages, so your website is referring to not just Eloqua landing pages, but to your CMS. So where the Eloqua tracking code is installed on your CMS, then those pages will also be displayed. So when you look at website reporting through Insight, what you're seeing is a combination of your Eloqua landing pages and the CMS. When you look at just landing pages here, as you can see right in front of you, then you're just looking at Eloqua landing pages. So just a little bit of FYI. Sometimes half the battle is knowing what you're actually looking at and what it's going to tell you, right? All right. So the most common reports, as I said, there are 200 plus. So where do you start? Well, these are kind of the most common reports. And you'll see I've highlighted there the analysis overview. So campaign analysis overview, email analysis overview, and email analysis overview by segment. They're probably some of the more common of the common, if that's a term I can use. But taking that a step further, what I've done here now is just highlight what I would say is probably the most common reports that I certainly extract, and certainly the reports that I have clients asking about. And oh, can we do this? Can we see this? Yeah, absolutely, you can. And these are all available. So the reporter user can access all of these, as can the analyzer user. Remember, the difference with the analyzer user is they can potentially take these reports and customize them. Remove information or add information, depending on what's more relevant for you and your organization. All right, so seeing things clearly is the key to finding insight. We can look at loads of numbers and all that kind of fun stuff, but if we don't really quite know what we're looking at, we can make incorrect assumptions about what's actually going on. So what I wanted to do here was just choose one example, which is the email analysis overview report, again, one of the more common reports, and just show you some information in the Help Center that goes into a little bit more detail so that you get a bit more clarity around what it is you're actually looking at. So when you arrive here in the Help Center and looking at this particular page, it'll give you a little bit of a breakdown. It does. This is kind of helpful here. It says, questions that this report will help you answer. So, how has an email been performing? What is the click-through rate? What is the conversion rate? What is the bounce rate? All of those things that relate to that individual email. Now, as you scroll down, and this is kind of the section that I really wanted to draw your attention to. It's the good to know section. Okay. And so what this is doing is just giving you a little bit more of an explanation as to what you're actually looking at based on the parameters that we'll create here in a moment for a particular report. So when you run the report, you specify a time frame. And what you'll be looking at is any emails that were sent within that particular time frame. And performance metrics there are plenty, and you'll see all of those here in a moment. As you scroll down, it just gives you a little bit of a visual example as to what the report is going to look like. So you can see it's kind of like an Excel export, essentially, rows and columns. Then these are the different prompts that you've got. Now, these can all be modified, by the way, by your analyzer user, but this is what you're getting from an out-of-the-box point of view. And then the part that is often the most helpful are the report metrics. So For instance, it lists total hard bounce back. So how does it do that? What is it? So it's the total emails that return to hard bounce back. A hard bounce is an email that permanently could not be delivered, and that enables you to drill through. Then their hard bounce back rate. So you'll see there's rates and there's also percentages as well. So how is the rate calculated? Well, it's total number of hard bounce backs divided by the total sends. So if you're wondering how does it come to that number, you can come to this page and it'll tell you exactly how Eloqua and Insight is calculating that particular percentage or that rate that you're seeing within Insight. Now, you'll notice actually, if I scroll down over here on the left, there's that area called Common Reports, and there's what I've just showed you there is available for all of these as well. So you can just get that little bit more detail, which can be helpful. Okay, so how do I extract a report from Insight? Great question. Let's jump in and have a look. But it's pretty simple. First thing, of course, is you have to access Insight. Now, if you're using Redwood, the new user interface for Eloqua, you'll see it's the analytics menu in the top right-hand corner. Drop down is dashboards and Insight, and it's Insight that we want to look at. Now, if you're not using Redwood, you'll notice the navigation is exactly the same. I just thought I'd point that out. So no change from that point of view, which is good. Okay, so we're going to extract a report. And the reason I'm only showing you one is time. It's probably the main factor, but it's pretty consistent. So it's really relevant. Once you've extracted a single report, you'll kind of be able to extract probably 200 plus reports. And this is something that both the reporter user and the analyzer can do, and it's done the same way. There's no difference. All right, so let's jump in and have a look at what that looks like. All right, so we might start from the home screen, for example, and we go to the analytics menu. We click on Insight, and this is where you'll notice it'll say login up here in just a moment. Actually, I think I'm already logged in, so that's why I didn't say it. But yeah, it would normally say login. Okay, so we arrive at what is the Insight home screen. So there's that report catalog that I showed you just a moment here at the bottom of the screen. And under others and dashboard, etc., and alerts, that's all specific to me as a user in my user profile. It's looking at things I've looked at recently, any dashboards I have access to, any alerts, for instance, that I have set up, all that kind of stuff. So that's unique to me. But what we want to do is look at the email list and understand what they are. So I'll click on email. Now, you notice when I come in here, there are some that actually have a little star on them. And so that infers that it's a favorite. You can make any of these reports a favorite by just clicking on the more icon there. And you would say add to favorites. Mine, of course, says remove because I've already got it tagged. So that's the one we want. We want the email analysis overview report. Remember, this is one of the more common reports. So I click on open. And once I get to open, I arrive at this screen. So let me just zoom in a bit so you can see that pretty clearly. Now, I don't want to sound condescending, but the easiest thing to do here is just to read the screen. I know that sounds a bit naff, but it really is the easiest way to do it. So select the time span for the email send date. So remember to ensure time range is set to blank. Okay, so we have two options. We can either come in here and select last 7, 14, or 30 days, or you can set it to blank if you then want to select a specific time and date range. So I'm going to set mine to blank, and let's go back to January. I'm going to say the 1st of January this year, and I might just leave it on May Day. Happy May Day, by the way. And here I can get a bit more specific. So you'll see there's obviously millions of emails, just like you have. But actually, let me go back a step. I moved too fast there. So I can click here. Notice the more search option. That becomes a little bit easier. Now, you've got an operator here that enables you to kind of play around. And so depending on your naming convention, then things might make it a little bit easier or maybe not harder, hopefully. So I'm going to select contained because I want to focus on the Eloqua user group. And all of the emails that I have that relate to the Eloqua user group contain the word Eloqua user group. So you'll see there it's highlighted those, and there are 256 plus choices returned. Now, I can go ahead and you watch. It's just going to keep reloading and reloading and reloading. And what I'm doing is just accessing the arrows here in the middle. The one at the top means I can select just one email and move it over to the right-hand side. And so that becomes the selected portion. But I'm just going to keep hitting reload, reload, returns. Okay, I think I'm there. Okay, so you'll notice actually from our naming convention, some of these go back to 2015. But remember, I looked at I set the date range to be from the 1st of January this year till today. So what's going to happen with those 2015 emails? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's just hit OK. Now, for smaller clients where maybe the group is small, that's fine. The other way you could do this potentially is if your role is to just produce a particular set of emails and that's all you're interested in, then you can actually just come in here and tick the box for your user profile. And you can do that in place of or in addition to the select an email. So there's a bit of flexibility there in relation to what you need to do. For me at Marketing Cube, I build all these emails, so I don't really ever touch the select users area. But you'll find if you've got a bigger marketing team, that can be a nice way to go through that process and kind of speed it up a little bit. So what I want you to have a look at here carefully, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see a little bit more on the screen, is you'll notice there'll be some date. Well, there you go, actually. There's one right there, right at the top. So this is from 2017, June 2017. Now, hang on a minute. I created a date range from the 1st of January 2024 through until the 1st of May 2024. So why on earth am I seeing an email in my report from 2017? Does that make any sense? Okay, so let's be clear on what we actually asked Insight to deliver. What we asked Insight to deliver is any emails that were sent within that particular date range from the 1st of January until today. And so that's why I'm seeing an email, and it's only one, as you can see, but somebody has obviously accessed a replay. Thank you for doing that, whoever that was. I can see who that was, but for privacy reasons, I won't click through and give you that detail. But if you click on these, I think, yeah, so you can click on hold and you'll get total sends and it will drill through and I can get to the name of that particular individual that did that. So there we go. So you can see it's quite similar. We've got 2018, 2019, quite a bit of activity. And if we scroll all the way to the bottom, then we start to see totals. So we can see over 10,000 emails have been sent, 9,700 delivered. Now, it gets a bit fuzzy here, right? Because you can't see that you've got to scroll all the way up to the top. Okay, you can't get around that, unfortunately. It'd be nice if you kind of freeze that row, right? And scroll through. Okay, can't do that. But what you can do is actually export. So if you click on export, you'll see you'll have a range of options here to choose from. And if I click on Excel, for example, probably the most common one, it's going to do exactly that. And it doesn't send an email to you. It actually literally exports the Excel file to your desktop. And so you can access it from there. Now, the reporter user, one key difference with the reporter user and the analyzer user is this section. I'm just going to really zoom in here to highlight it, is this option right here. So the reporter user does not see edit. They can't come in and actually edit the report. They can apply all those variables like you and I just saw with the types of emails, the date range, etc. That's considered read-only, but they can't edit the report. So just an FYI, it's kind of an easy way to see that information. So that's it. You've just really extracted a report and you then able to get it out into Excel. You can then get rid of the columns you don't want that may be adding value for you. But at the same time, you may think, you know, if I'm spending this time every month or every week, I'm going to the same report, I'm exporting it to Excel and I'm extracting the same, or I'm removing certain columns and I'm readjusting them. That's where you need to talk to your analyzer user or your Eloqua administrator and say, hey, is there any chance you can build this custom report for me and do it exactly like I've got here in Excel? So I want to have the email name and I want to have these specific columns. I want them sorted in this exact way, etc. And even better, could that just be emailed to me instead of me having to go in? And the answer is yes, you can do that. So your analyzer user would create what's called an agent in order to do that. Okay. So that's how you run a report from Eloqua. Okay, how do I create a custom report? Okay, this is the fun part, right? So creation of a custom report, look, it can be as easy and as complex as you kind of want it to be. And the level of customization that you can do is pretty significant. So you just want to kind of think that through. So let's have a scenario. Always makes it a bit easier. But the key point that I wanted to make here, hopefully you just noticed that the reporter user disappeared there. That's because this ability is only something that the analyzer user is able to do. Now, the approach that we find is the easiest, and I think this is many years ago when I first started using Eloqua was the advice that I was given, and I followed this one to date, is to really locate a report that pretty much gives me everything that I need, or not everything, but almost everything that I need, and kind of use that as my baseline. Then I can go in and customize, and I can potentially remove certain information and even add additional information to what I need to do. Now, if this is not something you do on a regular basis, of course, the other option is to contact Marketing Cube. So we build a lot of reports for clients for different things. For one-off reports, obviously, it's easy for you to do that. So hopefully, that's something that you can work on. But in relation to more customized reports, that's fine. We can help you do that as well. So yeah, please feel free to reach out if you wanted to have a look at any of that. But let's have a look. So I've kept this report here in place because at Marketing Cube, I have an analyzer user. And so that's why I have that edit link right there. So if I click on edit, what's going to happen is the interface changes. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a bit simpler for you to see. And you'll see what's happened here. So this is now out of the box. What I've done is I've taken an out of the box report. I've basically gone into edit mode. Now, the first mistake most people make is they would come in here, make a few changes, then they hit on save. And this one just makes me laugh. It's a 3.5 inch floppy disk. Now, I'm sure that will probably change when we go to the new Oracle Analytics server, but there's probably people that you work with that would have no idea what a 3.5 inch floppy disk is. So, but the challenge that most people face is they hit on that save icon and they get an error message. Okay, so it says access denied. Denied for the user path. What on earth does that mean? Okay, so what you're trying to do, what I'm trying to do right now, is actually make changes to and save what is in fact the master report that everybody gets with Eloqua. And Eloqua's like, nope, you can't do that. We don't want you destroying the out of the box reports. Okay, so the way you get around that is you select the other 3.5 inch floppy disk, which is a save as icon. And so from there, I can come in and then save it. I can got different folders. The most common one to use is My Company Shared or Company Shared if you want to make it visible to everybody. So My Company Shared would be the place to go if you wanted to then, and you can see we've got loads of different reports in our Company Shared. So everybody within Marketing Cube is able to access that information. My tip to you is don't change the name, or sorry, don't remove the name of the report from what you put in. Just put in something at the front or at the back so that if you wanted to replicate this report in some way, you've then got the ability to know which was the out of the box report that you used in order to get this one. What you could also do, if you wanted to remove it, that's fine too. You could maybe just drop it here in description and say something like, based on the email analysis overview report, just something like that. I've just found that quite helpful over the years. All right, so I'm just going to cancel that. So how do I create a custom report? Okay, so really the great thing is you kind of can't really break anything, right? So because you're not able to change those masters, you have to do a save as. Everything we're kind of doing from a save as point of view, look, if you break it, that's fine. Just get rid of it and start again. Okay. It's probably faster than trying to work out how you broke it, so to speak. What you've got is the ability to adjust these. You can move things around, all these different columns. So if you wanted to play with the column structure, you can definitely do that. You can also add filters to different things. And you'll see there's a whole range of filters here. So if we look at what I did, I changed mine. I added in Eloqua user group, right? So what I could do is say contains all, and here I would add Eloqua user group. So now what I would have is an email analysis overview report that is specific to the Eloqua user group, but that's just based on the naming convention, and it probably should be spelled correctly. Now, a more robust way to probably do that, though, is to focus on, whoops, not columns here, on filters, is on email groups. And I think we can go to more columns. Here we go. We've got attributes, email group. So when I add email group, now you'll see that'll be a list of all of the relevant email groups that you have in your organization. And so that's probably a far more robust way for me to do this. So instead of manually typing in the naming convention, any email that is assigned to a particular email group, then I can plot that in here and play with it. So that's how you can add filters, and you can see over here you've got the ability to play with those, and you can remove some, etc., if you wanted to. And then you've got all these other options to play with. So over here, what you're doing is looking at information that you would add as columns across the top. So you can start to drill in, looking at campaign, you can see you can sort of drill and drill and drill, and all of this information will become pretty clear to you. The start date and end date is of interest. Usually product region and type is good. So if you're using that information on your campaign canvas, then that information is available here as well, and can be really helpful from an overall reporting point of view when you're trying to break things down potentially to those parameters that you've assigned on the actual campaign canvas for your campaign. You can kind of go to town here, and what you can do as you go through the process, there are 3 tabs across the top. The results one will always show you as you make changes to that screen. When you go to the results tab, it will then give you a mock-up of what the report would actually look like. So any changes you've made to columns and so on and so forth. What you can't do at this point is that it's not applying a date range at all. So this goes all the way back to 2013, but that's fine. Ignore that. What you're looking at is more the cosmetics. It's your column structure. It's the information that's displayed on the screen. Okay. Now the prompts, you can play around with the prompts as well. You may, for instance, put in certain information around. So if I change mine to always display emails from a particular email group, then maybe I want to remove the ability for people to select emails by a particular name, because it's kind of irrelevant. So again, it shows you a mock-up below as to what it would actually look like, and you can make those changes as you see fit. So there's quite a bit of flexibility in how you do that and go through that process, and it can get super complex. The type of person, I suppose, that kind of really plays in this area, and I got to tell you, it took me several years before I really had the inclination to even sort of want to play in here, versus just getting our team of geniuses to do reports for me. But after I got a few rolling eyes of like, come on, Derek, you really need to do this. So I finally did. But I'm certainly not an expert, I promise you. The reports these guys build are phenomenal, and the level of complexity, but the information that is able to be uncovered is awesome. All of that fun stuff that we've experienced to date is really just going to be enhanced as we move over to the Oracle Analytics Server. So we're looking forward to that. It really is going to be quite interesting. It's also Redwood out of the box. So obviously, I do love Insight. Hopefully, you've picked that up, but I do think it looks a little 1995, or maybe early 2000s. But that's fine. The data is awesome that you can get. But yeah, super excited to see the analytics server and what that interface is going to deliver, and visually how interesting that is. So just to recap on a couple of things there, I think the couple of the key points is these 2 users. So remember, the reporter user is actually unlimited. So you can have as many users as you want within the business that could have a reporter level of access to Insight. What happens basically is they would log into Eloqua like any normal login experience that you would do every morning. They'll get a very slimmed down My Eloqua home screen, essentially with pretty much just access to go directly off to Insight. And once they're in Insight, they can do everything that I just showed you that the reporter user is able to do, unlike the analyzer, of course, who can do quite a bit more. The dashboards and the creation of dashboards is something that is exclusive to the analyzer user. And dashboards within Eloqua, as you know, there are two types, right? There's your Eloqua dashboards and your Insight dashboards. Now, what does that look like? Okay, so it looks like this. So from that analytics menu that we went to earlier, there are two options. There's dashboards and insight. So what that's actually saying is Eloqua dashboards and insight. And once we go into insight, we can then access dashboards. So here's one that I thought would be super relevant to our audience today. And it's actually a dashboard that we have for the user group. So what this information is telling me is that we currently have 1,419 active subscribers. So in the background there, the metrics that have been applied to that is to remove anybody who is globally unsubscribed, but maybe still subscribed to the user group at the email group level. So 1,400, which is great. That's a global number. Now, one of the nice things too, and this is why sometimes just sending off insight reports as a PDF doesn't really quite work, is that you've got a lot of hover functionality. And so that's why I think that's part of the reason that you have unlimited number of reporter users available, that you can come in here and people can access and they can then hover over and sort of get the detail that they're looking at. And so this is one here. And this is one that I want to talk to you a little bit later if we have time in relation to the program canvas. And so this is looking at those 1,419 people and getting a little bit of an idea as to how long they've been using Eloqua for. And it's really interesting, isn't it? When you look now, of course, this is just user group subscribers. This is not our total database of Eloqua clients. It's just those who have chosen to subscribe to the user group, like you. So you're in here somewhere in these numbers, you're being represented based on your response. Then different ways that you interact with marketing automation at your organization. And so you can see we've got admins, we have buyers, consultants, people that primarily work with data or developers. And so developer is more of a front-end developer type of person. Then we also have some non-users, people that don't actually use the platform, but they really need to understand how it works. Then the actual usage, how frequently do you access it? And so you can see the bulk of people. So when we ask this question, we ask you how frequently you use it. Based on your response, we then manipulate that categorization in the back end to be one of these four options. And so if you told us you access Eloqua every day, then we'd refer to you as a power user. So congratulations. And there's 390 of you. Now, Asia Pac is obviously our biggest area. And for us, Asia Pacific is Australia, New Zealand, and the islands versus Asia, which is kind of, Singapore north and a little bit east, I suppose. And across Europe, few in the Middle East, North America, we have a growing number of people in the US and a few in South America. So this is just really interesting visual information. It's live. So every time you look at these dashboards, you're looking at live information. Now, I've specifically have created, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Jack on our team has created this for me, but the brief I gave him also was not to include any personally identifiable information because I didn't want to have to hide that sort of stuff, etc. But yes, you can get down to account level data. So what we would plan to do here under summary, and maybe we can add more tabs across the top here, is to then start to look at it from an account point of view as well, looking at the accounts and which account has the highest number of subscribers, and then also including information about those who are registering and numbers of registrations each month, numbers of attendees versus no-shows, and all that kind of stuff, and looking at trend lines, etc. So your imagination is kind of the limit really here. There's lots that you can do. And that's where obviously a team like the geniuses that we have can help you to develop these types of dashboards. And we do these, as I said, for a number of clients, often for very campaign specific types of events they might be running. Is one example, might be a dashboard for a lead nurture campaign. It might be a dashboard around the universities, for example, when they run open days, or some of our financial services clients when they run their annual roadshows where they're going around the country and might be a combination of webinars, etc. So the dashboard just helps them sort of keep a bit of a pulse on what's going on. within that process. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of inspiration and given you some courage to go away and have some fun, start pulling some reports. Okay, so why the program canvas and why do we want that to be part of this exercise? Well, look, as we get the importance of our first party data is becoming more and more evident, even though Google has now pushed away again till 2025 their changes, but still, Safari, Firefox, everyone else has done it. It's now just Google that's kind of dragging the chain. But that first party data is critical, and how you use that first party data is becoming more and more important. And so there are some challenges, of course, with first party data. And look, those challenges are probably just general to data, not even specifically just first party. But let me give you an example. So, it can be messy. And by messy or inconsistent, I mean that someone enters their name and it's in lowercase versus proper case. Yeah, we can clean that. We can fix that. And we can use the contact washing machine to do that. The information can also age. Now, you'll notice on that dashboard that I just showed you, we had how long have you been using Eloqua? And we sort of had from less than 12 months through to 10 plus years. Now, at the point of us asking you that question, that data immediately begins to age. So what we have is a program canvas that you enter into, and that particular program drops you in and it updates certain values. And then every 12 months, you'll move on to the next step. So if you've told us you've been using Eloqua for 4 years, 12 months later, we're going to change that value to now be 5 years. Okay. So that's one example. If you think about any sort of date that you might capture as an anniversary type date, think of high school students with universities, for example, right? So universities generally going to ask what year the student is in, and they'll say, well, I'm in year 10. Well, they're not going to be in year 10 forever. Okay. So we need to some way to be able to keep that data fresh. And a program is one way that you can do that. Now, data can be inaccurate, and we can use all sorts of tools to help us clean it. It can be incomplete. If we know certain things, we can add information. For instance, in our world, if someone tells us they're in New Zealand, well, for us, that means Asia Pacific is the region. So we can potentially automate that process, not having to bother about asking which region they're in, because that's our definition of the world, not your definition. So we just want to make sure that's accurate. And so we can set up a program to do that for us. When you've got data stored across different silos, that can become really problematic. And so something like a program can help cleanse that data and get it off into the right location. So potentially something like, whether it's a custom object or even external, etc. Privacy regulations can be a challenge, and they might regulate what you can collect and how long you can hold onto it for. And it may be limited in scope. So there's not enough data to give you a full picture. So you want to be able to identify what's missing and potentially clean that. If you've got your phones out, go ahead and scan. There's a number of QR codes coming up, so you might want to jump on some of those. That one is contact us. You can obviously email us. That's also another way to reach out. But if you do have any questions on any of these points, please think about giving us a call. Okay, so what is the program canvas and how does it help? Think about it from a data management and cleansing point of view. That's one way to think. So this is actually a definition from the Eloqua Help Center. Okay, so it's real time. That's one of the key things. Now, if there's anybody on the call today, I'm just going to quick look at names. If there's anybody on the call who maybe has been using Eloqua for quite some time and is perhaps more familiar with the program builder, then there's pros and cons. Okay, so our technical team are pretty comfortable in saying that 95% of what can be done, let me say it again, then you can achieve about 95% of what the program builder does using the program canvas. The other comment that they make to me in relation to the program canvas is it's easier to use. It's also real time. So whereas the program builder is linked to this 15-minute increments of any update, so it's not really live or real time, the program canvas is. The other good thing about the program canvas is that its ability to download apps. So just as you can use apps on your campaign canvas, you can also use apps on the program canvas. So it kind of extends the functionality of the canvas in a number of ways. Okay, so I want to give you an example. I figure an example is the easiest way to do this. So in 2018 at Marketing Cube, we started to have a little bit of a business problem, and it was primarily me that was having the problem. Was it was getting harder for me to create segments that were geographically specific. Because what I really wanted to avoid was I didn't want to be that marketer that send out an email inviting somebody from Canada or the US or Poland to an in-person event on George Street in Sydney. I mean, it just looked like an idiot, right? And so it was very cumbersome to sort of go through that process. We had really good data for Australia and New Zealand. At one point, because we had states and those fields were required, I came up with this really naff idea of saying North Island, South Island. Don't know why I did that. But anyway, I did, but that's all in the past. And so what we focused on was then making country a required field. So by making country a required field, that's really what the difference was. So we made that required, and also in the CRM, because obviously we have 2 points of entry, really, or in our world, we have 2 points of entry. We have the data coming in from the CRM with new leads and contacts, and then we have people filling in forms as well. So country became a required field for us. Now, what we then did is we created a list of global regions that made sense to us. It's not driven by anybody else, but it made sense to us. And so basically, that was an Excel spreadsheet with a column down the left of every country on the planet. And on the column B was our definition of the region. So we have Asia Pac, we have Asia, we have the Americas. Actually, we have North America, Central America, and South America, Africa, Middle East, EU, Europe, and a few others. But that practical example, just on that point, was being able to identify not just Europe, but potentially EU and Europe. The reason for that was in the context of GDPR. So we wanted to try and future proof that a little bit in relation to how that will be helpful to us as we have needs or requirements to have to comply with GDPR, which we don't have to at the moment because we don't have a trading entity within the EU. So we're kind of exempt. But at the same time, like most organizations, we want to be the good corporate citizens and kind of do the right thing. So step 3, then what I was able to do, because I had all that information available, because keep in mind, I had some notes here and I've just got rid of them, but we have like, what was it, like 54 countries in Africa. There's, I don't know, 40 something separate nations across Asia, etc. You can imagine building filters with country is this one, country is this one. It just, and there's room for error. Yes, you can save as templates in some cases, but not all cases. So regions just made life so much easier in that geographical assignment and filters that we needed to do. So with dynamic content and so on and so forth. So it really has, and I use it constantly. So as a result, it's now much easier for us to engage with people based on geographical specific needs. And that can come down to wanting to make sure I can deliver emails to people in Poland during their business day, as well as during the business day for people in New York or Denver or Toronto. Okay. So that's where the region for me has come in really, really helpful. And that happens because of a program that was built. And here's the program. You can see it's not rocket science. So this is the program science. Program science. This is the program canvas in front of you. And you'll see it looks really similar looks very similar to the campaign canvas. A few differences, things like listeners, and we can cover those in a moment. Now, if you look closely at those numbers, you'll see that we've had 2.9 million people go through that, right? Now, we don't have a database of 2.9 million people, but essentially what we're doing is every few days, it was weekly. I think we've changed that now. So I think it's every 48 hours. But it runs through and it just basically checks, is country blank, yes or no? If the country is not blank, then it goes through what we call an update rules. That's another part within Eloqua. That's where that Excel file kind of gets uploaded and creates that logic for me. It does the update, updates the field, and off we go. And so it's just constantly running. Unlike campaign canvas, where you've got start dates and end dates, you don't have that with a program canvas. A program canvas is always on. You can pause it and you can deactivate it. It doesn't send emails is another important thing. So the program canvas does not send emails. The first question, sorry, I'm just going to jump ahead there. Go back to that first bullet point. First question you would want to ask yourself is, can I do what I want to do on the campaign canvas? If you can, great, go ahead and do it. If you can't, then the program canvas may well be the option for you to look at. One of the key things I mentioned there, it listens. So it has a listening function in relation to what it does. Now, contacts can also re-enter a program again and again, whereas you know that can't happen on the campaign canvas for good reason. It's good for ad hoc things. You may just have one-off data cleansing that needs to be done. You can do that, or you can have it always be on and scrubbing. The program canvas is also how we integrate with the CRM. It's also how we integrate with third-party platforms as well. So if you compare that to the campaign canvas, it's start and end dates. Obviously, it's where you do send emails. Your contacts cannot re-enter. You can send tasks to the CRM via an integration program. So that's kind of where they two can work together. So we can, from the campaign canvas, we can push people into a program to do certain things. Okay. And you can view changes to contact data. So what I mean by that is you can, whereas with the program canvas, you can listen for the change and it's real time and trigger certain things to happen. Versus over here on the campaign canvas, you're querying what a value is on a contact at a particular moment in time. Okay, you're not waiting. You're not able to trigger necessarily from the campaign canvas that something has actually changed and instantly do something. That's where your program canvas comes in. All right. So we're running a little bit over time. But I just want to help you think about how the program canvas can help you. There are a range of ways, and it really is only limited by your imagination. But if you kind of get stuck on a campaign canvas and can't do something, there's a very good chance that the program canvas will be able to help you. All right, so I'm going to call it quits at that point because it's now 10 to the hour and I've gone 5 minutes over. For those of you that would like to hang around, I'm more than happy to run through these release details for 24B, which starts this weekend for pod number 1 and will extend through the course of the month for everybody else. So I think it's actually pod 1 and pod 7 that go live this weekend. So if you need to jump, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you making some time. If you want to hang around, please hang around and make sure we get some questions along the way. I'm not sure if you've been keeping Adrian busy or not. All right, so 24B. So key enhancements that we can look forward to in 23B. The first one relates to simple campaign guided process. So this is changes that are being made in relation to Redwood and also to the simple email campaign construct. It's in what we call open controlled availability. So what that means is, first of all, the fact that it's open, it means anybody can access it. You just need to log a service request. So we can help you log a service request if you like. That's pretty easy. We can take care of that for you. And that will make that active. Now, what it actually looks like, I don't have any screenshots yet. Okay. I'll have them as of Saturday afternoon this week when we go live on pod 1. And we'll certainly get some information out to you about that. But I'm looking forward to that. It could be quite interesting. If you're not familiar with Redwood or you don't have Redwood turned on, if you do have your smartphone available, just scan that particular QR code right there and it will take you to a landing page, which will give you more information on how to access Redwood. The reporting API. Now, this one's a little bit further on the geek side of things, but is super cool. That's why it's a geek thing, right? So what this essentially means is it's now a lot easier to get Insight data out of Insight from an API point of view. There's what I showed you, obviously, and being able to export the data. That's great, but that's off to Excel. What I'm talking about is getting that data out and potentially putting it into some middleware or other types of platforms, CDP, those sorts of things, where you want to use that Eloqua data to enhance the data that you've got available. I just realized I've been doing this all week. It says release 23B. I apologize. It's release 24B because obviously it's 2024, not 2023. Apologies. All right. So yeah, so that one is super cool. Now it's not something that you can go in and play with necessarily. So if you do have questions, please reach out to us. We can help you with that one. That QR code, basically, if you subscribe to our important update, you'll get more information on this as well. More information than I can kind of share here. If you're an Oracle Zoom, if you're a Zoom client and obviously you're an Eloqua client, then the Oracle Labs team have added additional functionality to their Zoom app. So remember, you have two Zoom apps. You have the Oracle Labs Zoom app, and you also have the Zoom app that is from Zoom.inc as well. So two to choose from. This relates to the Oracle app, and what's been added is registered for the registered decision and attended decisions. Those two have been added to the campaign canvas. The generative AI enhancements. So this is in controlled availability for those who have the AI add-on and also SMS. If you have the Oracle Eloqua SMS app, then there's more information available there. So, but it's in controlled availability. So what that means is you need to log a service request and your request will be considered, okay, versus open controlled availability. If you've been using the split decision step on the campaign canvas, the key difference here is that it's now providing more random outputs, feedback from clients, and we kind of noticed the same thing. It wasn't kind of as random as we might have hoped. And so we weren't the only ones to notice. And so they've done some work to enhance that. So it's now more random, which I love that definition. It's more random. Guided campaign. So this is another add-on for Eloqua. But there have been certain changes made to that as well. So if you do have that particular add-on, please have a little look at that. Those updates basically bring it more in line with the Eloqua apps and the sales tools in relation to some of the language that is used. So that covers it, my friends. Next month, so Wednesday, 5th of June, we're going to be exploring landing pages. And it's not going to be so much about how to build a landing page, because I'm pretty confident most of you are pretty familiar with it. If you can build an email in Eloqua, you can certainly build a landing page in Eloqua. What we want to focus on, though, is different use cases that we see, both that we use ourselves, but also ways for you to think about it. The other caveat is, did you know that Eloqua users globally create more landing pages than they do emails? Isn't that interesting? So if you're not using Eloqua landing pages, then I would suggest you need to ask why. And why is it so many other Eloqua users are using them and we're not? Okay, so that's a little bit of what we want to cover off next month. I love landing pages. But you know, it's not a binary exercise either, but we'll dive into that in a lot more detail next month on the 5th of June. So thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Happy to stay here on the line for a few moments if there are any other questions or chat. But otherwise, have an amazing week and we'll see you next month. Thank you very much.